show of its kind in the world. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Oh my goodness, welcome in. In about 30 seconds, an extremely exciting surprise. I cannot wait. But before that, here's what you'll hear on tonight's show. We'll discuss the tech stories of the day, including how VR is making daunting medical treatments more bearable for you, and how the average person trusts legal advice generated by chatbots more than a lawyer. Those stories in about 10 minutes' time. After that, why whale urine is so extremely important to life in the ocean. That's a story that's right up my alley. Let's dive into the show, shall we? Content warning, over the next 10 minutes, a theme of mental health struggles will be brought up, and that may include someone's personal struggle with suicidal ideation. Any sensitive listeners or parents with children, do be advised. All right, we got such a special surprise for you. Someone who words cannot express, but maybe music can. The man's name is Tony Thie. He's our foreign correspondent. He's from London, England, a small country in England, probably. Tony Thie is here! My goodness! Welcome, Tony Thie.
David Cooper, the legend returns. Now, I've come back. I've heard you need double-digit listening figures.
Yes.
I am coming back. The savior of Canadian radio, as I would call it. I love Canadians, as you know. I like Canadian bacon, I like pigs, and I like the Mounties. For those who don't know me, which is all of you, I've not been very well. Trigger warning, I am black. But I also had a very, very bad breakdown, people out there who are going through it, and was really sick. So one of the biggest disappointments, everyone there, was that I was meant to launch with David. You were meant to, unfortunately, you've been stuck with his voice. But never fear, I am here. I didn't do much, but thank God, David, that Biden is still president.
He is probably... Oh, yeah. We haven't really, collaborated on the radio since Biden...
Yeah.
Yeah, since...
What happened?
I don't know what it is. I haven't been following the news.
Well, I mean, as much as that, and I was so glad to hear Justin Timberlake still president of Canada.
Yes, Justin Timberlake is still president of Canada. Yeah, I guess the short of it is we do this show, we have done this show together for many years, and then you fell ill.
Yep.
And then the show kind of launched in Canada.
Yeah, with inferior guests, let's just be honest.
With inferior guests, anyone who isn't you.
Yep.
And now here we are.
Thank God the Pope's still around.
The Pope... Nothing has changed. Everything's exactly the same.
Everything is exactly the same. So tell me, how's Canada? How's this show? You did send me a link to you being on Canadian TV, breakfast TV.
Yeah, to launch the show, we did a little press. I was on the morning show, which is Global's morning national show. I did a little spot there for a second. Yeah.
You did look very Jewish and constipated. I
am both of those things, except I have the opposite. I have IBS-D. The D stands for...
The D. Yeah. Well, I had probably the worst 6 months of my life.
It's not the first time you've fallen into one of these.
No. But this has been one of the longest, and it was very difficult. I was really non-functional, and it was difficult. And I must say, you were a fantastic friend, sending me messages, telling me not to worry, telling me that the show is going downhill without me. What are you doing? Hurry up and get better. Our wonderful, wonderful manager tried to send bailiffs round to my house for a microphone I took. Yes. It was very, very difficult. But yeah, in all fairness, it was really tough. And I just wasn't functioning. I did, however, complete Netflix.
Like you finished, you got to the very end.
I've finished Netflix. I've seen everything.
What were the final credits like in a video game?
I mean, it says no animals were hurt.
You told me while you were not well, because we were talking a little bit, that one of the things that kept you going was this Apple TV show, Severance.
Stop it.
And I'm like, well, in 5 weeks, there's going to be no more Severance. And then in 4 weeks, there's going to be, and I'm like, oh no.
I know.
I'm glad you made it through the finale of Severance.
Right. I loved it. because I got into it because of youths, and it was such a hiatus between season 1 and season 2 that. And I just got obsessed with listening to the YouTube recaps and then the recaps of the recaps and all these theories. A fantastic show. And weirdly, I think just before they started, they were in Grand Central Station, like a pop-up, walking around Grand Central. And that.
Yeah, New York. They were just in the center of the train station.
Yeah, and then which I was there just like a couple of months before. And then they come to London and did the same thing by Tower Bridge.
Wow.
But weirdly, I was suicidal at the time, so I couldn't go near any bridges.
Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh. I feel like you're such a dynamic character, and you're going to come to be, and you have been in the past, such an important member of the show.
Yeah.
It's like hard to introduce you almost.
Really?
You know, it's like, I want to tell everyone, like, here's Tony Five. He lives in England.
Yes.
He co-hosts the show every night.
Yes. What else do you need to know?
But I don't know what else to say about you.
Imagine, how would you introduce Nelson Mandela? That's how you do it.
Yeah.
I love this show. What do I bring to the show, David? I would like to speak to you people who are listening. Call me. I'll send you a postcard. And I genuinely can send you a postcard now. I love people. David knows that. If you can call, if we can arrange a time to talk, email the show on something@something.com.
People can leave messages if they want to say anything to you or have questions for you. The number is 1-888-505-6644. That's 1-888-505-6644.
That's right, 1-7744214. But listen, what I would like to do is I would like to use my extensive knowledge of everything to speak to people out there. I don't know what time this is broadcast. What time is this broadcast, David?
It airs in the late evening, Tony. This is the late evening. I don't know what time it is there in England, but it's late in Canada.
What year is it there?
It's 19. Yeah, it's 19.
Okay. So, I mean, whoever's listening now, they've obviously got not much of a life, to be fair, if they're listening to your show.
I mean...
Or that broken radio thing. Do you remember I said to you that there's a lot of people that listen to you because they don't know how to adjust the station?
That's true. Our best ratings come from the demographic whose radio dial is both set to this station and the off and on button is broken and it's always on.
So, yeah, I'm back. You'll hear me all the time, unfortunately. And if you hate the English, good luck. Yeah, that's me, Tony Five. You can follow me on MSN Messenger, Ask Jeeves. You can send smoke signals. I do know the king, so I'm not dropping it in. But, yeah, anybody wants to talk to me, I would love to talk to them. I'll call you up. I'll come around your house. I'll make you tea and crumpets. I love people. I love David. I love Canada.
Uh-huh.
So it's good to be back. It's been a while. This, in all fairness, today is what day is it today?
It's like Monday or something. Tuesday there, maybe.
Okay. And I really recovered only in Friday. I recovered a matter of hours ago. David was the third person who I called after my mother and a friend.
You know what? It's like you these moments, like Tony's triumphant return, you want it to be this amazing thing. But I think what's realistic is like, it's your presence on the show every day that makes you so special. Your curiosity is missed. Your off the rails kind of contributions to the show is missed. And I'm like so happy you're back. I'm ecstatic.
And if anything, the medication's made it worse.
Are you heavily medicated right now?
Absolutely. Good. Absolutely off my tits. Absolutely off my rock. I had no idea what's going on. But yeah, I'm really, this show and being with David, to anyone listening, is a massive part of my life.
It's funny you talk about having 6 months being too depressed to work on the show. You said to me in the past that working on a show with me, not this one with our former network employer, whatever, was one of the things that kept you out of your funk and that meant so much to you on a daily basis. So it was this real catch-22. I'm like, Tony, you got to come on this show. It's going to help you. But also you're unwell, and so you don't want to be on the show.
Yeah, in all seriousness, I wasn't functioning.
This isn't meant to guilt you. I'm just so glad you're back.
Yeah, thanks for saying that, David. Made me feel worse.
Oh, off.
So a couple of thanks. I want to say thanks to Danny. I want to say thanks to our manager, who was amazing. Miranda, your girlfriend, your cat, Jesus, and yeah, I'd like to speak to Canadians, mainly because I don't believe you guys exist.
Are you sure we don't exist?
Well, speak to you tomorrow, guys.
I'm sitting right here. I'm David Cooper. This is the last show. That was...
Tony.
Up next, why virtual reality might soon help you cope with medical procedures. We'll be back.
The Last Show with David Cooper, where we apply quantum mechanical psychoanalytical astrotherapy to your problems.
That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me, he said as we started rolling here after the commercial break. It's time for Technology Time with Mr. Carmi Levy, a I'm going to make it seem like I stuttered on purpose, a technology expert based out of London, Ontario, Canada. Carmi, VR is a thing.
It is.
How's that for an introduction? No, I feel like it can be used to help people. I've heard of it being used to help people with like fear of heights, arachnophobia. Exposure therapy is a great way to get over your fears. One thing people are really scared of is like daunting medical treatments. You don't know how it's going to go. Could VR be something to help people, prepare for going under the knife or prepare for a really rough medical treatment?
I mean, I've always thought that it could. It's this ultimate distraction, right? You're lying in a bed. Maybe you're a cancer patient. You're about to get chemotherapy treatment. You're going to feel pretty lousy. You're scared about what might happen next. And so you put on a headset and you watch something that completely takes you away from the reality that you face. And so I've always thought that there's potential there, but now we're starting to see research that suggests it really is a thing, that the science is validated. The Clinical Journal of Oncology Nursing just published some research that showed they took a bunch of chemotherapy patients at Vanderbilt Ingram Cancer Center. This is where cancer patients go to get their chemo treatments. And there were two groups, one without headsets, another they gave headsets, and they played content for them. So sessions that were designed to make them feel more relaxed. And they measured their stress levels and pain levels and their mood before and after their sessions. And they showed that the patients who had these VR headsets were less stressed, they felt less pain, and they were in a better mood after the sessions were done. And so it's pretty clear. I mean, when I was a kid and I'd go into the hospital, I always tried to, distract myself. And there were TVs in the ward and there were other, to listen to the radio or whatever. This is just a modern version of that. If you're not focusing on your illness, there's likely the potential for a better outcome. You will feel better. It will impact your health positively.
I was at the dentist the other day and there's a TV station while you're lying in the dentist chair.
Yeah.
And you can play Netflix and whatever you want. So you might even say it's Netflix and drill.
But why not? I'm personally a fan of Finding Nemo while I'm in the dentist chair, but whatever it takes, right? Play it for me so that I'm not focused on the fact that there's someone with their hands in my mouth drilling into my jaw. And so it's like it isn't rocket science here. It's a technology that's increasingly accessible. AR, VR, mixed reality headsets used to be really expensive. They're coming down in price. They're becoming more mainstream. You can buy one for a few $100. So you can either bring your own, or increasingly you'll go to a doctor's office or a dentist's office or a cancer treatment ward, and they will have those technologies there as well. Because for a few $100 per seat, that can result in a better health outcome, which I'm willing to guess probably saves the system a lot more money than these headsets would have cost in the first place.
It's such an easy thing to do. Why not?
Yeah. Bring it on. I'm a fan. I hope I never have to use it. I hope I'm never in that chair. But if I do, I hope I end up in a place that sees the value of this kind of technology for patients.
Carmi, I'm a divorcee. No, I'm not hitting on you. That's my best pickup line.
Carmi shows his wedding ring. Although, if I wasn't married, maybe. But,
boy, I'm a gruntled divorcee, not a disgruntled one. I liked my divorce lawyer, but I would like call her with the littlest questions. I feel like divorce attorneys are also part-time therapists. Side note,
they are.
Like just little questions, like I had these crazy thoughts and just like calm me down so that I don't end up sending them to my ex's lawyer. Like long story short, we don't need to get to my divorce. But I feel like if I had a well-versed chat bot to give me legal advice, maybe with a side dish of therapy, just to calm me down, like it was just the unknown that was really stressing me out at this time. And my lawyer, charging her insane hourly rate, was happy to help me with the unknown. But then I would get the bill at the end of the month, which was not a fun part of the process. Not that it's a fun process to go through, but the bill's one of the less fun.
You're paying for it.
Anyway, ChatGPT would have been like perfect, because a lot of the legal advice I needed was like basic, like, oh, you're an idiot, that's not how it works, or just like, calm down, don't send that email. I wonder if I had access to a chatbot that was well versed in the law and a little bit in therapy, that I would be able to use it for like 90% of my insane phone calls, and then the 10% of actually working on the divorce, fine, use a real lawyer. Would I have trusted it? That's the question. And that's the question that one study looked at.
Yeah, University of Southampton wanted to know, would we trust the output of a legally focused, legally trained chatbot more than an actual lawyer? So they ran a number of experiments on a number of people, and they gave them legal advice from two streams, one from actual human lawyers and the other from a chatbot. It was the same questions, but obviously different channels of delivery. And then they asked them after they had received the advice, which one would you be more willing to lean on? Which one do you trust more? And as it turned out, and of course the respondents had no knowledge, they couldn't tell which one was automated or which one was human generated. And it turns out there was a preference among the recipients for the chatbot generated advice. And then they also asked them, could you tell the difference between the AI generated advice and the lawyer generated advice? And in by a very small margin, the respondents were able to tell the difference. It was a very small margin, so you really had to lean in. But it really does show that chatbots, for a lot of people, for a lot of those simpler questions, those answers are, as far as they're concerned, good enough. But back to your question about trust, we've already talked about cases where, in one particular case, a lawyer submitted a brief to a judge based on he cut and pasted it right out of ChatGPT, didn't bother reviewing it, and of course it contained cases that literally never existed.
It hallucinated. Yeah, it's like, we cite this case, like Bob versus the state of Oklahoma, and it's like, that never existed, dude. Yeah,
that's right. And the judge did the due diligence that the lawyer should have done and said, hey, wait a second, this is all made up, and that lawyer is now in the process of being disbarred. So for simple questions that help the process, maybe it has a role to replace the actual human lawyer and their ability to validate what comes out of the chatbot and to make sure that it isn't just making stuff up. I think that's a whole other story. And I think, that might be asking the technology, or too much of the technology. And we shouldn't be 100% trusting this technology as a replacement for lawyers, but maybe as a complement to, and maybe as an additional tool in the lawyer's toolkit. The technology is certainly better than it was even just a couple of years ago, and the research now validates that.
I mean, most of us have been on the phone with a professional who's like trained in their field, and they may charge you for the pleasure of a minute of their conversation, whether it's an accountant, it's a lawyer, a real estate agent, and you call them, you have the quick professional call, they address what you asked, and then they hang up on you because they're busy. And then after a phone call like that, maybe you're like me, maybe you're not. I always am like, oh, I meant to ask this, and the questions are always trivial. Maybe it's me just expressing my anxiety. Maybe people aren't like me. But I feel like the next time that happens, I'm just going to ask a chatbot. I'm not going to treat it as like 100% correct answer, but just like, someone who's vaguely familiar in this field that I know nothing about.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I will often I'll use a chatbot, or I'll use Google or other research tools before I call the professional to kind of help me come up with my list of questions and help me frame the conversation. Because then I still recognize the value of a professional human being in that context, but I want to make the best use of their time, and technology can help us do that.
It certainly can. When we come back, we'll discuss one company based out of China. It's a huge social media company. You'll have to wait and see what company that is. You'll have no idea what it is. They were fined over 500 million euro for illegally sending user data to China after saying they wouldn't. You won't believe what company this is. This is going to shock you. It's a short form video company. I bet you have no idea what it is. And we'll talk the details of this fine and why you should or should not be surprised here with technology expert Carmi Levy. It is time for Technology Time, and that time will continue in a few moments.
Want to be part of The Last Show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. We solve world problems with radio jingles and bad advice. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
All right, you have been waiting. If you weren't listening before the break, we were trying to guess which large Chinese technology company that has a short-form video app was fined $500 million, a little more, 500 million euro, over 500 million euro, lots of euro, okay, for illegally sending user data, regular everyday user data to China. I have no idea what company this is, and we are here with Carmi Levy, technology expert. It's time for technology time, and Carmi is going to reveal. This is a big reveal, Carmi. Welcome.
Just listen to the ticking of the clock.
Ooh.
Tick, tock.
Is it Facebook? No.
Tick,
no. MySpace.
Tock,
no, I know.
Tick, tock.
Oh,
tick,
I know this one. But tell me, just in case, because I know, but maybe
tick.
you know. I don't know. What company is it?
It's owned by ByteDance. It is TikTok.
Oh my God.
Of course, to the surprise of absolutely no one.
This company operates in the US and Canada and Europe. It operates in countries that oftentimes have strict laws about sending user data away from the country. I think TikTok or ByteDance says they aren't going to do it. It looks like they did it in Europe.
Yeah, TikTok has claimed all along, despite the fact that they're owned by a Chinese company, that a lot of their administration is based in China, a lot of their infrastructure is based in China. They say that they don't store user data from around the world in China, that it's generally stored in or fairly close to the countries where it originates. They've told this to Canadian officials, to American officials, to European officials, and they've made those very same promises again and again over the years. But now, according to the Irish Data Protection Commission, that's their privacy regulator, they're saying that isn't the case, that despite TikTok's promises, they in fact did take data from Irish users of TikTok and they stored it in China, which of course means it is potentially accessible by the Chinese government, which obviously I don't have to tell you, opens up a whole lot of privacy concerns. And so that is in violation of what is likely the most strict privacy regulation on Earth. It's known as the GDPR or the...
You're giving me acid flashbacks. I remember when the GDPR regulations were pushed on American companies operating in Europe.
Yeah.
And I was working in an American tech company at the time, also Canadian companies. Any tech company that operated in Europe had this date where they had to be GDPR compliant. Basically, the European privacy rules are more strict than many countries.
Yes.
And we had like a company-wide initiative to become GDPR compliant. And this was not a fun 6 months, I got to say.
Not at all. And any company that deals in data, especially when it crosses borders, knows full well that the European Union means business and that GDPR really is the template for privacy rules around the world. And so they're, and the European Union has made it very clear they will go after anyone who violates it. And Ireland, of course, part of the EU, takes that responsibility seriously. And they found out that the data was in breach, or that TikTok was in breach of these rules for 2 years, between 2020 and 2022. It was storing data in China, and it didn't bother telling its users that was the case. The good news here is that they updated their privacy policy in 2022, and according to the EU right now, they are compliant with the GDPR. But the water's already gone under the bridge, and they have to pay that fine. It's 600 million US, 830 million Canadian. They mean business. TikTok says they don't deny doing it. They recognize that it was a mistake, and they admit that. But their excuse is interesting. They're saying, why are you targeting us? There are thousands of other companies out there that are all doing the same thing. You should be going after them instead of us. And so they are appealing it, basically saying, the dog ate everybody's homework, not just mine. And that's kind of where we're at now. TikTok doesn't have a leg to stand on. This is the deal they made. And this is the deal that you make with TikTok when you download the app. This could happen to you no matter where you live. And you've got to keep your eyes open for it.
If the dog eating homework is just one person's homework and it's a toy poodle, you don't go after them. If a dog is a pack of 1,000 wolves eating a whole country's homework, you go after them. That's why they're going after them.
Exactly.
If I sell in Europe a company that, I don't know, I'm making tchotchkes, I'm knitting blankets, and I sell 5 a year, and I steal their data, they're not going to come after me. I shouldn't do it. It's a violation of this European Privacy Act.
The big fish get the attention, and that's what's happening here. Sorry, TikTok.
And they deserve it. What am I, my knitting company? What am I going to do with this data I steal with you? Send it to my sister? Like, well, you know.
And this is why these privacy laws exist. This is why there are regulations around what data is stored, where it gets stored, who has access to it, under what circumstances they can access it. I mean, this is how we protect privacy. And to call that into question, I think, is it's laughable. And quite frankly, we should all be laughing at TikTok at this point. Don't record it to TikTok, because then they'll just collect more data on you, but still laugh at them all the same.
Yeah, don't laugh at TikTok on TikTok. Otherwise, they'll have a folder for you.
Maybe on YouTube.
Okay, my parents finally have figured out, my dad has finally figured out how to use rideshare apps, and he's very bad at it. He's 75, 76, and I hope he's not listening. I'm sorry, Dad. He doesn't know what street to call the driver on. He doesn't know he doesn't know when he gets in the wrong car. He's good with technology for his age, but there's that fluency that young people have. He doesn't quite have it.
Right, and it could be confusing.
Not that there aren't people that age that can navigate a rideshare app. There are many. He's just not one of them. I've always wondered, these highly convenient apps that aren't easy to use for people without a high degree of tech fluency and smartphone fluency. Mm-hmm. I always wonder, are they left out, or do they use them badly? Lyft, the rideshare app, might have a kind of response to this, don't they?
Yeah, it's called Lyft Silver, and basically it's a simplified ride-sharing experience. The interface is simpler. There are fewer places to go off on a tangent, to click or tap on the wrong thing. When you do get into trouble, there is live human support wherever you need it. It also makes it easier to order a vehicle that's easier to get in and out of. So it might be an SUV with a higher seat, a higher hip point, than a car that's lower slung and smaller doors, things like that. And so there are also features in there to make it easier so that your ride details can be shared with members of your family in real time, if that's a thing for you. So it recognizes a lot of the problems that older users run into when using services like Lyft, and it tries to address them under this new banner of Lyft Silver. They're rolling it out in the US now, but the plan is after they're finished with that initial market, it will go global, and it will hit Canada and other countries as well. And I think, we've talked often about how technologies don't often take the unique needs of older demographics into account. If you are a digital native and this is all you've ever known, it's one thing. If you're being introduced to this technology later in life, there's a whole bunch of different needs that need to be met and aren't always being met. And so by designing the product in such a way that it's easier to use for an older demographic and it addresses a lot of those concerns, I think it opens up ride sharing to a wider audience. And it's by design a good thing for a lot of people. It also enhances safety, because a lot of older folks, and my late father was one of them, desperately hold on to their licenses long after they should, and they dismiss ride sharing as just a waste of their time. And so if you can make it easier for them to transition into services like this, well, then maybe they won't be driving cars when they shouldn't be. And that's also a good thing for everybody.
I just don't know if my dad's going to use it. He's going to be like, I can handle the full Lyft. I'm not using Lyft Silver.
But at least he's using it. And I think that's a good thing. In my parents' case, they never even wanted to. The instant that you said smartphone, they would both just shut down. And so that wasn't even an option. My father insisted on driving. And so, if maybe your dad will refuse, but maybe others won't. I'm thinking that's a good thing. It ensures that we're now having conversations in our families that we probably should have been having years ago.
He's not at the stage where driving with him is terrifying, but if his father, my grandfather, who's passed his few years driving, he held on to his license. He went to, they test you every year or so when you're over 85 or 90. He went and he passed. I'm like, I don't know how he passed, because his last few years behind the wheel with him were special and terrifying. But yeah, that's such a scary thing when people don't give up their license. Not everyone who's a little bit older shouldn't be on the road, but there are a few that should not be on the road.
Yeah, there are enough businesses in my immediate neighborhood that have been rolled into by drivers, and in virtually every case, and maybe it's anecdotal, but it just about every case over the last couple of years in my neighborhood has been a senior driver who probably should not have been on the road.
Carmi Levy is a technology expert based out of London, Ontario, Canada. Carmi, thanks again.
Great being with you, David. Thank you.
Up next, a conservation scientist, and his job's important because the following is going to be educational, so I can't get in trouble. Our topic after the break, why whale urine is so important to life in the ocean. It's going to be a blast.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. The last show with David Cooper. Procrastinate your life away with us.
We polled you, our listeners, and overwhelmingly you wanted us to answer this question. Why is whale urine so important for the sea? Today, your dreams will come true. It turns out when whales pee, entire ecosystems benefit. It helps fertilize the ocean, boost plankton growth, and maybe even reduce carbon in the atmosphere. So could a whale's bathroom break solve climate change? I am here with Joe Roman, a conservation scientist at the University of Vermont. His book, Eat, Poop, Die, How Animals Make Our World, is available wherever books are sold. Joe, I am so, ecstatic to discuss whale urine with you. What a great topic.
Thanks so much, David, for having me on.
How exactly does whale pee help life in our oceans? And how did you figure that out as scientists? That's really my question I got to know.
Okay, yeah. So, it all started with poop, actually.
Of course.
I was working in the Bay of Fundy, in the Canadian Maritimes, and one of the first whales I ever saw rose to the surface and put out this enormous fecal plume. So almost as big as the boat right in front of us.
I'm so glad you've given me the phrase fecal plume. It's a new word I'm going to add to my repertoire.
Great. There's also flocculent feces, if you'd like, which is woolly-like feces, which it looks like as well.
Just taking notes here.
So it's easy to see whale poop in the water. We collected it, we analyzed it. We found lots of nitrogen, phosphorus, iron, all these essential nutrients that plants, plankton, and ultimately fish and the whales themselves need to survive. So we thought, okay, these whales are fertilizing their own gardens where they feed, right? Spoke with another colleague of mine, and he's like, Joe, they also, of course, pee a lot, and they travel really long distances every year. So the great whales like right whales, gray whales travel almost across the entire planet every year, tens of thousands of kilometers. They go to the southern or the lower latitudes to breed. It's warmer and it's safer for their calves. They're not feeding, so we don't see any poop in the water there, but they're breaking down all the energy that they've stored throughout the summer when they're feeding, and they're peeing all the time. And we've seen videos of humpback whale moms and calves peeing bright green in the water. So we started measuring how much nitrogen and other essential nutrients that a farmer or gardener would put in their field every year. How much of that are they bringing to these very clear waters that are nutrient limited? The reason when you go to Hawaii and the Caribbean is the waters are so clear is because it doesn't have a lot of nutrients. The whales are providing this. They're acting in a way like the circulatory system of the planet, by feeding in one area and moving nutrients the other way. We've all heard that plants are the lungs of the planet. Animals are like the heart and arteries by moving these nutrients around.
So their poop is good for the environment. I've heard their placenta is. When their corpses fall to the ocean floor, those can be kind of essential. Now we're finding out their urine's important. Is it fair to say they're the ocean's messiest, but maybe most helpful roommates?
Very nice. Sure, why not? I mean, they're moving around a lot, so maybe these ecosystems get a little break. But yeah, they're coming in and they're releasing all these nutrients and then moving back. So maybe they're sort of maybe like college roommates. So you get them for part of the year, and then they're going home with their parents for part of the year.
So this process of sort of collecting nutrients as they eat around the ocean, bringing them to nutrient deficient or nutrient lacking areas, that whole process is called the Great Whale Conveyor Belt. What a wonderful phrase. Did I summarize that properly, or is there more to this Great Whale Conveyor Belt that you'd like to share?
No, you've got it down. I mean, of course, whales are going to feed where there are a lot of nutrients, where there's lots of food. So they're going to the high latitudes where there's herring and sardines and krill bulking up. And then going down to these low nutrient areas, also we use the term oligotrophic, but anybody who ever's been in a tropical ocean probably can have that in their mind's eye, those bright blue waters. That's the conveyor belt part of it, is these whales moving those nutrients great distances. The other process we describe is the whale pump, which I mentioned earlier, which is the moving of nutrients up and down in the oceans, whale feeding at the bottom of the ocean, coming to the surface to breathe and to digest and relax, and also to poop. So it's both a long distance horizontal movement as well as really important movement going vertically every day.
How much of these nutrients are being moved by whales? I know nitrogen's an important thing to be moved across waters. I guess what I'm trying to ask you, is it a vital part of these ecosystems? Is it that much? Like, how much tonnage is being moved?
Sure, a lot, tens of thousands of tons of biomass. But let's just look at one area to give you an idea. Whales feed in Alaska, they breed in Hawaii, and they bring about 4,000 tons of biomass to Hawaii every year. How can we visualize that? It's more than 20 million Big Macs. So it's a lot of food that's coming every year into this system that doesn't have a lot of food there. It's more of the nitrogen and other biomass coming into the system than is provided by the physical forces in Hawaii alone. So Hawaii is one good example. The Caribbean is another. Another way to think about this, though, David, is what about each individual whale? How much nitrogen do they produce each day? One estimate is that fin whales pee almost 350 liters of urine a day, and humans, we do about 2 liters. So it's a lot of pee going into the ocean every day by these animals, nitrogen-rich, phosphorus-rich, all the really good elements or nutrients that we need for growth.
I got to pierce behind the scenes here into science communication. For those who have no idea what I'm saying, what you're doing being on the show as a scientist and talking about your paper is science communication. In that process, you come up with analogies and easy to understand things for people. I got to ask, why Big Macs? What made you decide to do the math on Big Macs of all things to choose?
Well, because we know how much they're consistent size, right? So we know how much each Big Mac weighs, and it's meat, right? So it also is a way you can understand it. What else could we have used? Not every communications person liked it. Some of them are vegetarians, and they're like, "Oh, I don't like the idea of promoting whales as providing all this food in that form." I think it's a way of getting a visualization, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
For other species, I've used meatballs.
Of course.
Another way of doing it, right?
Oh, that'd be a good one.
And that was, we were talking about midges, and we had this chapter called Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, which is, based on the movie.
Classic, yeah.
And that's the same idea, Cloudy with a Chance of Midges. So the midges are moving these nutrients.
I'm sorry to derail you. Let's get back on track. Reducing carbon in the atmosphere, is that something whales do? And at what scale do they do it?
Yeah, so that's a complicated question, but there's one way that whales can emit carbon. They breathe just like we do. They're animals. So when you see that blow, that was a lot of carbon dioxide going into the atmosphere. But what whales can do is they can also store carbon for a long time in their bodies. We don't have large trees in the ocean like we do on land, but we have large animals. Blue whale, largest animal ever to have existed on the planet. When it dies, it brings a substantial amount of carbon, especially if it's into the deep sea, where it can persist for hundreds of years. So they lock that carbon away that way. But the truth be told, we're still at the early stages of understanding what this fertilization, this great whale conveyor belt, what role that plays in the carbon cycle. It may be helping to sequester some carbon, or it may only play a minor role.
On a personal note, do you ever just stop and think to yourself, I get paid to write about whale pee for a living. How cool is that?
Even better, I get to sit on boats in Hawaii and collect whale poop and try to collect the whatever else is coming off of the whale. So that's when I really know I'm lucky. But yes, it's a pretty good deal being able to sit home and think about these adventures as well.
He's a conservation scientist at the University of Vermont. Check out Joe Roman's book, Eat, Poop, Die, How Animals Make Our World. That's available wherever books are sold. Joe, thank you for joining me today. I've enjoyed the chat. It was a fun one.
That was great. Thanks so much, David.
After a short break, a perfect topic for this late hour: the top 10 UFO sightings of all time. I'm a skeptic. My guest is not. You be the judge in a few moments.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. Keep listening to The Last Show with David Cooper, because the alien invasion can wait. The Last Show with David Cooper.
It's the moment you've been waiting for. The top 10 most compelling UFO videos of the last 10,000 years, because cameras were really good 10,000 years ago. We're going to go through some of the most amazing, unbelievable, and unknown events with Noah Cappe. It's Noah versus the unknown. Noah is a TV host, and he also has a nice head of hair. Are those your credentials? Those are your accolades?
It's well, he's not lying, and it does look great today. I've got a product with natural berries and bark of wood.
What are you going to put on, like seal placenta on your face next? What's going on over here?
If it keeps this youthful glow. My goodness.
I love UFOs. There is a overnight American radio show that used to air, I think still does air in parts of Canada, which will remain unnamed. But as a kid, I listened to it.
Yeah.
Art Bell was the host, and then this guy,
God.
George Norrie. And
the show was on it was side to side, like from coast to coast across the country.
It was. My father would say that it was in the Yehuppetsville hour. Yehuppetsville is Yiddish for like Nowheresville. It was always this late night show. And often, I mean, sometimes they got into conspiracy theory territory, but often it was like UFOs, people who had been abducted, the paranormal, and I feel like this show is probably right up your alley in its heyday. Let's go through the top 10 UFO sightings of all time.
This is exciting. Who doesn't love a top 10 list? Plus, there's going to maybe be one or two in here that people aren't familiar with. And I think what's so exciting is there's the visual kind of follow-up. So if there's something that intrigues someone or their curiosity is piqued, this is one of those where you can jump online and actually see all of the videos.
Odds that we'll get through all 10 of them, I would bet 1,000. I'd give you 10 to 1 odds. All right, let's jump in.
Let's jump in. Listen, I guess first and foremost, before we do this,
let's not jump in.
What's your stance on UFOs? Where are you on the spectrum of belief, disbelief? Is that still even possible?
I believe there have been well-documented sightings with decent, no craft has landed, but decent photographic and video and personal experience evidence for various sightings of unknown things in our atmosphere. I think that is true.
Don't you think that if it was any other field with the level of video, photographic evidence, of testimonials, of first witness accounts, that any other field, any other topic, there would be such an overwhelming amount of proof and information that you would say, there's no discussion here?
I have a eating grin on my face right now because I have an answer to your question.
Okay.
If it were any other field with compelling video, photographic, personal account, corroborated by other people evidence, I would believe in the thing. However, Noah, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. A photo of like a giraffe at a zoo, if my girlfriend came home and she showed it to me, I would believe with like 99.9999999% confidence that there was a giraffe at the zoo. Maybe it was faked, but probably not. I trust her. I trust the photo. That's not an extraordinary claim, Noah. The giraffes are at zoos. An extraordinary claim is that an unknown craft of like extraterrestrial or outside of our solar system origins that had intelligent design. Like maybe it's the Russians testing, new spy planes or messing with us, projecting things using a laser projector in the atmosphere. I don't know what, but I'm just saying I will not accept any conclusions that are extraordinary without extraordinary evidence. So yes, if it were any other field, I would believe it, but because it's this, I will not. That's my response.
Well, listen, hopefully this list will help sway and help you see the light, that there are Of course, there are drones and there's technology and there's all the whole world is competing through their government programs to create things and do things that they don't want other people to know about, and there's stuff up there that I'm sure we don't know exists that's from this place, but there's so much more. Let's talk about this.
Sure, give it to me.
Let's kick off, and I'm going to go a little bit out of order because I want to start.
This is going to end up being the top one list, by the way. You know what? It was the new name for this. Can David and Noah get through more than one UFO item from history? That'll be the premise for this.
Well, listen, this first one might land up being just the one because this is one of the biggest ones. This is one that I think checks all the boxes and really could be a segment of its own. I'm talking about 1997, the Phoenix Lights.
I know of it.
Of course you do. This is a case that doesn't only have multiple videos from multiple angles at multiple times. It has thousands of witnesses all across the state. It has a governor who comes out years later and admits to 100% believing it. This is the scoop. 1997 at night in Phoenix, this massive, what looks like lights dotting the perimeter of a triangle, or really just like a V shape. So these lights in the sky that kind of look like this giant V shape are moving very slowly across the state of Phoenix. And as it's moving across the state, there are thousands of reports coming in from people, homes, on people on highways, calling news outlets, whatever. And this thing continues silently to move over the state. There is footage. There is all of it. Now, the entire place goes crazy. The world goes nuts. And the pressure is on the government to step up and answer it. Now, as the days go by, you get the famous army saying, oh, it was flares and we were doing testing and whatever. And everyone's like, no, flare stays in a geometrical pattern for that amount of time and doesn't change its brightness or what. I mean, you go through the checklist. Fife Symington, who's the governor at the time, lands up doing what everybody does in this field and brings out an alien to a press conference, a guy in a costume, and is like, we caught him. Oh, we can rest easy. This is all over. The case is closed.
Yeah, they discredit, they make fun, of course.
And that's exactly what they did. The reason I share this particular piece is that years later, he comes out and says, I was wrong. I don't know why I did that. I saw the lights. It was real. I believe.
There's a rich history of the U.S. government discrediting people who have seen classified Air Force tech as kooks. And that history, I'm not saying that's what the Air Force did in this case, but that rich history of anyone saying UFO being labeled as a kook or silly or making fun or it's clearly not believable, that's like a documented, with like Freedom of Information Act releases, it's a documented tool that's been used by the Air Force and by the government, maybe not in recent days, but like in the 40s, 50s, 60s during the Cold War when they were trying to like hide the B-2 bomber program. So that lineage of anyone makes a claim of UFOs, you immediately make fun, that probably just rubbed off on that politician.
100%. And listen, that tactic is alive and well. And there are people like Luis Elizondo, who's an ex-government, was the head of ATIP, which was an advanced aerospace threat a program for 5 years for the government, a secret program. He comes out and says, oh, I'm leaving the government. I'm going to spill it all. And everyone's like, you work for the government still. You are planting and manipulating stories. I mean, this struggle still goes on. But at the end of the day, the Phoenix Lights, go on, look at the footage, read the stories and the accounts. This is one where if you can debunk it, congratulations, you're the first.
I think there's strong evidence for a lighted pattern in the sky, and that's it. We don't know what it was. I can stay there, Noah. I don't know why you need to go and take it to the next level, but we'll find out why, and I think we'll get to the second item in our top 10 list, of which we are definitely not getting to 10, of the top UFO sightings in the history of the last, century. Noah, I ended our discussion here with 30 seconds on the clock like a real professional. So I guess my question for you is, how you doing?
I'm doing well. And why don't we just set up the next one, a classic little cliffhanger?
This is why you're good at my job. What is the cliffhanger?
Well, when we come back, we're going to be talking about NASA. I mean, let's get into it now. If we don't believe people's footage, maybe we'll believe our very own government. It's the STS-48 NASA footage. This is a fun one.
It's the top 10 UFO sightings, and you won't believe what happens next. How's that for clickbait?
That was real nice.
Noah Cappe is here. We'll be back after the break.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. We're here because your heightened awareness deserves heightened entertainment. The last show with David Cooper.
UFO sightings. There have been documented ones in history, some that are very compelling, evidence of what we don't know, or maybe our guest does. Noah Cappe is here. It's Noah versus the unknown. Noah, this has been so fun chatting with you, I got to say.
This is a great one because I feel like, so often we talk about ancient sites or manuscripts or unusual discoveries. But this one is one where you get to kind of really let the reins out and just kind of go a little silly and have fun. But listen, we left people hanging and we've got to talk about this NASA footage. It's the STS-48 NASA shot. This is from a shuttle mission in 1991. And it is a camera that is filming from the side of the craft, from the shuttle, and you'd see an object, and it's in the distance, and it's slowly moving across the frame. You can see it kind of like across the outline of our planet, and then it stops, and it kind of moves a little bit, and then in a crazy angle direction, it just starts moving so fast and kind of shoots into space slowly in the sense of you're looking at hundreds of thousands of miles of distance being covered as this thing just disappears into the blackness. Of course, the first look, all of these always have a thing. It's like if it's on Earth, it's a weather balloon. And if it's in space, it's an ice particle. This is not an ice particle. This clip is fun to watch. Check it out if you can. Well, I don't know. This is a fun one.
But what do you think these things are? Again, for me, I just think it's evidence of a weird video of something odd. And I can't say what it is, and I won't, because there's not enough. Like, what do you think this is, Noah?
I think that this is evidence that we are not alone. Look, we're visited.
How can you jump to that conclusion?
Because that to me connects to a million other dots. I don't look at one dot on its own. I zoom out and look at that dot as part of a massive bigger picture.
I got a saying for this one too. I got another eating grin on my face. Before it was extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And my new one is the sum of bad evidence does not equal good evidence. The sum of mediocre evidence does not, if you know math, there's the sum function, which adds every number, and then there's the max function, which just takes the best out of a group of numbers. I apply the max function. So a bunch of mediocre evidence to me does not sum to compelling evidence.
100%. I think that the tool that people are using to measure, though, is out of whack and needs to be recalibrated, because I feel what you're saying is that what you feel is evidence is a craft landing on the White House front lawn and in 4K video, a gray alien walking out and saying, this is who I am, this is where we're from, this is whatever. That is...
What's wrong with me requiring that?
100%. There's nothing. Well, there's somebody out there who thinks there's something wrong with you for sure.
Well, there's a lot wrong with me, but I just mean I need something as compelling as that. Maybe it doesn't need to be silly like your example, but it's got to be so clear cut,
100%. I understand that. For me, I think maybe I just look at, and I'm going to rattle off a handful of them all together here. The 2004 USS Nimitz Tic Tac encounter, the Go Fast video from the U.S. Navy, and the third one would be the gimbal video from the U.S. Navy in 2015. Those three videos, which got very popular, they were in the New York Times, they were all over, they were government videos that got released through confirmed government these are legitimate clips. They're not doctored or tampered with. You've got footage of a gimbal, of a craft moving in the sky that is a shape and that is a speed and that is not in infrared. There's no heat coming off of it. There's no cold coming off of it. It goes into the water. It comes out of the water. It doesn't slow down. It doesn't speed up. We have nothing that could do anything like that. And we've got footage from government fighter jets. You're listening to the audio of the fighter pilot filming this thing going, what the is that? What the is this thing? And then he catches it on camera and you hear the other co-pilot go, you got it, dude. Like they're freaking out because they are filming a UFO and they know it. There are hundreds of fighter pilots that are talking every day to government officials about stuff that they're seeing up there. And you listen to the testimonials from these guys and it's like, this has been happening on a daily basis, non-stop. And this is just a handful of footage that confirms it.
And I believe some of these accounts. Like, I believe they saw something. I believe these videos were really like they were sincerely capturing, and they weren't early deepfakes, which weren't even possible back then. But it's not that when we say something's true, when we say something's false, there is a third option, which is I don't believe you yet. And that's kind of where I'm at.
100%. I think this step by step, video by video, testimonial by testimonial. I mean, I'm going to come back and we're going to talk about the famous school in Zimbabwe that all of those school children saw a craft land and saw a being come out. And these kids have been interviewed all through life as adults. They've spread out all over the world. They bring them back. They stick to their story. Professionals. I mean, this is a story where if you want proof, if you want 60 different testimonials of seeing a craft and a being, that's a great story to talk about.
Couldn't 60 kids get together and make up a hoax and stick to it for life?
Yeah. Couldn't your girlfriend document a giraffe with a bunch of people standing on each other's shoulders in a costume? Or, you know what I mean? Like anything is possible.
But to me, what I offered is way more possible than an extraterrestrial being. We have evidence of human-made hoaxes like crop circles. There's many such evidence of hoaxes in history. There is no compelling evidence that alien beings visited us. So I defer to these other possibilities.
I guess I would say to you that two things can exist at the same time. Crop circles, I think, are kind of bananas. I think that, yeah, of course, the majority of them are man-made. But is it possible that the first one, or that there are one or two that were real and then something catches on or whatever? I don't know. I mean, There is footage of from a newscaster. I think it's in Ireland. It's a news team. And this is the only footage that exists in the world of what they claim is an orb making a crop circle. You see a ball of light come down over a field and circle around and speed up and move around in this weird geometric shape. And then it shoots up into the sky and there's this pattern left in the thing. This is a news camera filming from like a hill up in whatever. This footage, you know what I mean? That to me, it's like in the top 10 videos of all time, one that we might not get to is Jerusalem, the Dome of the Rock. And for a long time, there was a lot of belief that this footage was one of the greatest, captured moments in history. Multiple angles of a nighttime shot of the Dome of the Rock, which is an unbelievably powerful historical site in Jerusalem. This white ball, this orb, descends down, floats on top of the Dome of the Rock, and then flashes bright and shoots into the sky at 1,000 miles an hour. I mean, like it got shot from a gun. And there were multiple angles and all of it. And for 2011, this thing for a lot of years was this was the footage. This was a go-to for people. Now that technology's advanced, people are like, we're seeing pixels. We're seeing this. It might have been doctored. It might have been whatever. So I can toe the line. I can say, look, there are clips out there that we thought were real and weren't.
Even the ones that are real, though, I just don't jump to the conclusion And when you ask, isn't it possible? Yes, it is possible, but I don't believe it yet.
Yeah.
Maybe I do need the green being on the White House lawn. Noah, what a fun, I think we got to like 3.5, which
listen,
it's honestly a lot better than I thought we'd do.
And I'll chalk the win up, as you said, and play the clip back. You said, I don't believe yet.
Sure.
That's progress, my friend.
I don't believe in the Yeti. I don't believe in the Tooth Fairy yet. Present me with evidence. If you invite the Tooth Fairy over and she's got a $10 bill and puts it under my pillow, I might start believing you. I probably believe you drugged me with psychedelics, but if it,
both can be possible at the same time.
No, it's always such a pleasure having you on the show.
Always a blast, man.
There he goes, Noah Cappe. After the break, navigating intercultural romantic relationships. They involve sacrifice. But what are these trade-offs and how do they reshape not only families but communities? That we'll cover in just a few moments. I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show.
Oh boy, you look bloody beautiful tonight. And I know I really know I've seen the light.
The only radio show that goes deep, really deep, while keeping you thoroughly entertained. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Navigating intercultural romantic relationships. Love can be beautiful, but what happens when it asks you to give up your language, your food, even your holidays? A new study explores these sacrifices, and sometimes they're small ones. These changes can shape not just couples, but whole families and communities. I am joined by someone who's done this research. Her name is Dr. Emily Impett. She's a psychology professor at the University of Toronto. Emily, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
What exactly is cultural sacrifice when it comes to a relationship? I myself am kind of like in a small example of it. I'm a Canadian dating an American. I'm a Jewish person. She is not. Our families are a little bit different. But back to the question, cultural sacrifice in the context of a romantic relationship. Is this just compromise or is this something a little different?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we kind of define cultural sacrifices as times when someone kind of gives up or adapts kind of parts of their cultural traditions or their values or maybe their practices for the sake of their relationship. And so these could be small things, like you mentioned, like changing holiday celebrations, but they can also be as big as converting to a new religion. And I think the thing that kind of makes these things unique in the context of intercultural couples is that these sacrifices are often kind of tied to people's identity in many cases, and people see them as like this key way that they try to make their relationships work.
Interesting. And you found numerous themes of sacrifice, things like language, religion, food. What are some of the ones that are the most kind of impactful, kind of the most, the people feel when they sacrifice them, they're making pretty extreme compromise?
Yeah, so we did find kind of 9 key themes. So these were changing people's cultural practices, food, language, religion, parenting, things around gender roles, and encountering prejudice. I can maybe just give you a few examples that would give you like a flavor of the kinds of things people did.
Please do.
So like one participant, for example, traveled to West Africa for a traditional wedding ceremony. So he spent a month kind of negotiating dowry and following cultural protocols that were entirely new to him.
Wow.
Another person stopped speaking Latvian at home, not because she wanted to, but so that her British partner wouldn't feel left out of conversations that they were having with their child. Another participant reported that he had to cut ties to his family members and friends because they were prejudiced against his partner.
Wow. I'm starting to feel like my personal example I gave at the beginning of the show was not one at all. These are extreme examples that people give up. In most cases, are they happy to do it, or do they feel like a part of them is lost? Like, what's the impact of making such major changes like that to be with someone?
Yeah, so the impact really varied. So on the one hand, I think some people saw this sacrifice as a way to grow, so as a way to kind of expand themselves in their relationships. So they weren't just kind of merging cultures, but they were creating something entirely new and creating this new shared tradition. Some couples collaborated in parenting. So some chose kind of which language or languages they wanted to teach their kids. And so in some ways, these couples were kind of seeing these moments not just as giving things up, but really building this shared culture that belonged to both of them. But on the flip side, some participants described sacrifices that were more costly and even painful. So as I mentioned, some people cut ties with prejudiced family members. So one participant, for example, stopped talking to his grandparents after they rejected his wife for not speaking imperfect Spanish. Another participant had to hide her partner's gender identity around family who wouldn't accept it. So she had to constantly be switching pronouns depending on who they were around. And this was really emotionally exhausting. So
Wow.
I feel like when people felt like they were building something new together, it tended to be really meaningful and deepen their connection. But when people felt like they had to kind of give up a part of their identity or put on a mask when they were interacting with other people, then those sacrifices, I think, were much more challenging.
It sounds like it's not a binary. You gain something completely, you lose something completely. It's a bit of a mix. Did you come across any stories where the sacrifice backfired? Like somebody edited themselves and now they're thinking, I gave this up and I regret it.
I'm trying to think of a particular example. I mean, definitely some of the things that people shared were quite nuanced. I feel like what I saw less in terms of backfiring was more, I feel like we could see people kind of like reframing their sacrifices. So yeah, I had to give up this thing, but actually I like learned a new language and that was positive for these reasons. So I saw a bit more of like people kind of like reframing or reappraising or changing how they thought about the sacrifice to kind of think about more what was gained rather than what was lost. So that's the kind of thing that we saw.
So let's focus on the positive, those gains. What are some of the major key gains that people get from modifying themselves to create this new shared tradition? In some cases, that must be a good thing.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, some people reported learning a new language or adopting these new cultural practices, trying new foods that they hadn't tried before, or engaging in new religious practices, or even converting to a new religion, which they felt like was quite meaningful. So yeah, I feel like those are kinds of examples of the kinds of things that people gained.
And it's not just about the couples themselves. When we merge cultures like this, families shift, societies evolve. In a broader sense, what can intercultural relationships do to us and the way we live in our communities?
Yeah, I mean, I think I thought about this a lot, and I guess I feel like love and relationships aren't just about two individuals, but in these couples, they're really about two cultures. And so what we know is that these sacrifices, we can see that they ripple out from individuals to families to societies more broadly. And so I think every intercultural couple who's kind of thoughtfully trying to make space for two traditions is kind of reshaping what family looks like, and also kind of step by step helping to create this more inclusive world.
When I married my ex-wife, we kind of merged families. There was different traditions there. There was a big fight. I didn't talk to my parents for years. It was messy. Everyone kind of told me you knew what you were getting into. I don't know that that's always true when people merge. So what advice would you give to people who are just casually dating someone from a different cultural background to really understand what the merging would be like if they were to, say, get married or get serious or introduce each other's family?
Yeah, so I guess one of the biggest things that we learned from this research, and maybe in some other research that we've done on intercultural relationships in our lab, is really the importance of couples kind of making space for having open conversations about their cultural differences. So we know that kind of bridging these differences can be challenging, but I think if couples can talk about these things sort of early on, going into a relationship, and sort of talk about their cultures, learn about their partner's culture, be curious about their partner's culture, ask questions, be open to it, then I feel like couples can kind of get a better sense of the kind of relationship that they might be walking into.
Well, Dr. Emily Impett is a psychology professor at the University of Toronto who did research on intercultural couples. Emily, thanks for the conversation. I've enjoyed spending some time with you and talking about this subject.
Thanks so much for having me. I enjoyed it too.
Do you like what you hear, but you just tuned in? Or you missed tonight and you want to check out an episode of the last show that you didn't catch? Good news! The entire show is available as a podcast. Just go to lastshow.pizza. That's www.lastshow.pizza, not .com. And there you can find out all the information you need, including how to subscribe. Check out our social media while you're there. Give us a follow. That feels really desperate asking you. Moving on. Coming up next, running does not have to be painful, punishing. There is a secret, and it's a name. No, a verb. No, a name verb. It's called jeffing. Is it just walk running? Or is it the secret you need to save your joints, your dignity, and to stay fit? Stick around because we'll find out in just a few minutes. And I timed that wrong, waiting for the music. There it is!
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. This is your nightly dose of chaos, confession, and questionable life choices. The last show with David Cooper.
Running. It doesn't have to be painful or punishing. One secret to running longer and maybe even enjoying it instead of feeling that pain from the minute you look at your shoes is something called jeffing. And we're here to discuss that with James Thie, a sport coaching and performance lecturer at Cardiff Metropolitan University. James, first off, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
And second of all, I saw an article about running, and it's just one of those things where it's like, I need to be working out more. I got to put on those running shoes. I got to get out there. And then the word jeffing appears. And it just, I don't know, made me laugh. The idea of some activity that could help me named after a fellow. So who is this Jeff character?
Who is this Jeff character, I hear you ask? So Jeff Galloway was an Olympic runner himself, was a coach very much like myself in terms of looking after lots of people, lots of abilities. And back in the 70s, he came up with a kind of run, walk, jog hybrid of basically getting people moving. I think that's the fundamental thing of getting people from A to B, taking away the stigma that unless you're running continuous for the whole distance, or duration, that you're not a proper runner, but actually breaking it down and actually making it manageable. And I'm all about breaking down barriers and trying to make, running and being physically active as open to everyone. And so jeffing after Mr. Jeff Galloway is a really good way of doing that.
Isn't it funny how we feel like we need to be in tip-top shape to take part in activities? Like a lot of people, they start working out at home every way they can before they feel comfortable going to the gym, as if there aren't beginners at the gym. And I think it applies for running too. We think we need to be running like 10 miles, 20 kilometers, whatever. Otherwise, we're, quote, not a runner. But by thinking that, we end up just staying home and doing nothing.
Yeah, I mean, historically, people always, and it's normally around the turn of the new year, decide they're suddenly going to, change their lifestyle and they go out the door. And it's super tough. People have had backgrounds where they've either haven't done physical activity since school or high school. For some people, they've had injury, illness, families, work gets in the way. And so, they think they need to go out and they see sometimes on social media that XYZ's done something. And therefore, unless they hit a 5K or a 10K straight away, that they're a failure. But going back to kind of jeffing in the principle of, whether you're running for 10, sort of a minute to 30 seconds, but then taking a bit of rest, recovery. But the key is you're still moving in that recovery. You're walking, you're maybe even running at a slower pace. And so you're still covering ground. You're still kind of moving from A to B, but hopefully it just breaks that barrier down that, you build up and people build up the duration that they run for. And sometimes they take down obviously the duration that they're walking or going at a slower pace for. And so we kind of, as coaches, suggest that even to, elites that will be coming back from injury and illness, they will start with a jeffing program when they're coming back from injury and illness. And so for Joe Public that are out there just starting their running journey, it would be really tough for them to think they've got to go straight out the door and run a continuous mile, run a continuous 5K. But this is a really good way of breaking it down, making it manageable. And it's all about progression and enjoying it.
So to that end, walk me through specifically how jeffing works, how I can use it to get out there and start building up my fitness.
Yeah, so there's many different ways. You could look at jeffing in terms of a kind of structured jeffing or an unstructured jeffing. So, your structured Jeffing might be that you go with a duration. So you might, as I said, you might run for a minute, you might walk for the equivalent, or you might even walk for double that. So you might walk for 2 minutes in between. So you may be looking at in kind of 3-minute cycles of 1 minute running, 2 minutes kind of walking recovery. And you might repeat that, 3-4 times. And you can see where you might actually only run for 4 minutes, but your duration is going to be over 10-minute plus of actual movement time. And so you'll cover a good distance in that. Most people will cover a mile in that, continuous nature. And then you've got an unstructured, and that might fit someone that doesn't want to be looking at their watch every few minutes. And it might be that you pick a lamppost out. It might be that you pick a shop or, a favorite neighborhood that you're going to be like, right, I'm going to run to there. And then I'm going to walk along that bit of the sidewalk, and then I'm going to start again. And therefore you just break down the distance. You may be thinking about, just a point in the distance you can see. And then you can also challenge yourself with that, you might run to 2 stop signs, or you might run to the next street. But you also then might find, and this is a really important thing, that it changes from day to day. People have busy lives. If you're working shift patterns, or you've got young families to look after, the next day you might be really tired, or when you pick it back up again. And therefore, Jeffing allows you to be flexible, where just because you've set X amount of recovery, you might take an extra stop sign recovery. You might actually feel really good on that run. So do you know what? I'm going 2 stop signs, or I'm going 2 neighborhoods. But then you might have bitten off more than you chew, and you might need a little bit more recovery. So so play with it. That's what it's there for. It's so individual. I think it just gives people flexibility. Some people love the stats, the statistics. Other people want to run a little bit more to feel. So you find your own individual way of doing a bit of Jeffing.
So you mentioned athletes using this recovering from injury. So Jeffing isn't just for people who are couch potatoes gradually getting back into a fitness routine. What are some of the happiest outcomes you've seen? Is it athletes going from, barely able to run again to back on track and competing? Or is it just regular people really happy with their progress?
It is exactly that. In terms of elite athletes, will, if they've been, have a long-term injury or illness, they will have to start with, a run walk program. Because again, their minds are still set maybe where they were just before they got injured. That could be Olympic level, that could be world championship level, but they have to be very, very realistic about where they're at. And also just that start point and just building, what Jeffing allows is it allows the body to kind of recover from the impact of running, the stress of running. But because of the recovery that it gives you in the walking or slower, parts of the jogging, that you bring your heart rate down, you take the stress levels down. And so actually, you can continue longer, because we know that, if we can keep the heart rate beating at a steady pace for slightly longer, we're going to get more benefit. We're going to get more kind of butt for our exercise. And that's exactly what it's about. So, so whether you're starting out, whether someone's on their way back from injury, team sport players, it's quite natural for them, because obviously a lot of team sports are stop-start. But I do think if you sometimes pick a duration that you want to maybe complete in terms of the whole bit of Jeffing, and that might be duration, or it might be distance. That might be completing a mile. It might be for some, we have a couch to 5K kind of program in the UK that people, really gets people off, being a sedentary kind of person off, getting them, to complete a 5K continuously, Jeffing, is a fantastic building block. And often those people then go on to 10Ks, half marathons. And we're in a running boom right now. We've just had over 1 million people sign up to try and do the London Marathon this year.
1 million? That seems like a lot of people in the streets.
They ain't getting 1 million people on the streets, but 1 million people put their name on the ballot to be part of it. And actually, running around the world is so popular. And so if Jeffing, also just signposts a few more people to running, and obviously the physical benefits, are obviously known in terms of, the cardiovascular fitness, you're kind of, strengthening your muscles, your bones, but the mental side of getting outside the door, and recalibrating life and yourself, it's such an important part of being physically active.
Is it less about how fast you go and more about how kind you are to your knees? Like, is this stuff kinder on your body, your joints, than just, running a marathon when you're not in great shape?
Yeah, I mean, running, is a activity that if it's done, not in the proper way, and it's done, overuse injuries often happen as well. So again, Jeffing does allow you to rest and recover. I think there's been studies that have shown people that have obviously, Jeffed marathons in phenomenal times, but it's helped their recovery as well, because obviously you can imagine if you're not maybe putting the full force through your body for 5, 6, 7 hours, that's actually going to be really beneficial. And plus, your training build up as well. So yeah, Jeffing could be a really good way if people have any potential knee issues or back issues previously with running, and maybe it's put them off running. I would try Jeffing to get back in the game.
Well, James Thie is a sport coaching and performance lecturer at Cardiff Metropolitan University. James, thanks for talking to me about Jeffing today. It seems like something I could try. Easy way to get back into running, right?
Absolute pleasure. And yeah, get out there, a bit of Jeffing, and no ability, no age, and nothing to stop people starting now.
Thanks again. That's tonight's show. On tomorrow's show, we'll get advice from our past selves in the future. So if you have advice for your future self, call the show 1-888-505-6644. That's 1-888-505-6644. We'll cover that with foreign correspondent Tony 5. I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show. Thank you for tuning in.